Hello, everybody. This is your teacher, Julian Marin, and today we're going to review Martes de Prueba number 5 for 9th grade 2025. Thank you very much for watching. We're going to start by sharing the screen so we can give a look of what kind of exercise we're solving today. Okay, so over here, remember, the first thing is that you need to understand the nature of the exercise. In this case, we have a text, and then we have some gaps that we need to fill with the options that are given for each one of the questions. Now, several elements need to be taken into consideration. Always, it is necessary to understand the context of the information that is being addressed. That is what we call pragmatics, the pragmalinguistics. What is the topic, and essentially what are we talking about? Because depending on that case, it could be formal or informal, or talking about a specific topic or discipline, right? That is going to explain, for example, the terminology that could be used or the jargon. Let's remember that there is a difference. Jargon is the specific language that is used by a group of people, and terminology is essentially a specialized language. Now, over here, I believe we can start. Oh, something else that I like to mention. One of the characteristics of these exercises is that sometimes it is confusing for the people who are confronting the tests, because somehow it seems that the options that are given could work, all of them. But then you know that only one will be validated as the correct answer. That is because over here we are talking about an aspect of language that is the accuracy, which means a good language use. In other words, one option or the three options could work without changing the meaning of the sentence or the idea that is expressed, but only one is the most appropriate from the perspective of grammar, for example. So that is why sometimes, because you cannot approach a language test the same way you approach an exact science test, in which only one answer could be possible, right? From the perspective of accuracy. But in this case, sometimes people have problems with that because they don't seem to identify the most appropriate, because they say, okay, but this works. The three of them work, but I'm going to show you with each one of the examples. So I'm going to start by increasing a little bit the size of the image, because then we're gonna have to, that is another characteristic of the exercise, because in a reading comprehension critical reading text, you have the alternative to read the whole thing, the whole document, the whole text before starting answer the questions. But in this case, as you read, you are suggested to answer the questions because of the nature of the exercise. So let's start over here. Okay. The term entry level can be a double-edged sword. On the one hand, so we got the first question. We have he, it, or we. So since we're talking about a term, right? Over here, I suggest the option B. On the one hand, it alerts buyers to the fact that this is the cheapest model in the range. But in the flip side, which is the other side, on the other hand, it signifies a product that may be very basic. Still, it is a term that the car industry has been using for some time, along with many other industries. and will probably go on using it until it finds a better alternative. So there we have the answer for question 21 in the first paragraph. Now, I have to move here. See, yes. In order to answer questions 22, 23, we need to move it on, and also 24 in this second paragraph. Very good. So let's continue reading on the second paragraph. Right away, we will find question 22. When I was invited, so then we have three options. To test infinitive, test simple present, let's say, and tests. Now, what? The BMW's new entry level 318i. That is the sentence. So when I was invited, so now we know it's past. Remember when we use did or the verb, right? The first verb, let's say, because we have two verbs, invite and test. Now, if the first verb goes in past, so the second one doesn't. So you can use it in present. So the three are in the correct timing, present. But then only one is correct. We could cancel C. We could cancel C because it works with the third person. Remember, he, she, or it. And over here, we're talking about I. So C is not a good option. Test. When I was invited, right? When I was invited, test. Something is missing. What is missing is the infinitive too. So the correct answer here will be A. That is the one that I suggest. So when I was invited to test the BMW's new entry level 318i, I made sure I did not fall into the same trap by expecting a basic model that may be lacking somehow in terms of comfort, technology, and performance. The 318i is indeed entry level, but for a German luxury car brand, which puts it in, now we got 23, puts it in perspective. Now we have three options. Puts it in best perspective, better perspective, or well perspective. Over here, I will suggest better because it is comparative. Because we're comparing German luxury car with probably implicitly, of course, other countries or other industries or other, let's say, companies products, right? For example, in Japan or in France, in Italy, or in North America, which are the greatest manufacturers of vehicles. Let's continue. We're going to find 24. There is always a minimum standard that must be met to be true to the BMW badge, regardless of whether it is an entry level. Then we have options, but top of the range, entry level, and top of the range, entry level, or top of the range. So over here, whether. When we use whether, we are anticipating contrast. So if it is contrast, the best option will be or. Okay? Yes. But also talks about contrast, but in a different situation. Over here, we're presenting two options: entry level or top of the range. Sorry. Okay, so I hope so far the explanations are clear. Now we need to move down. We need to scroll down so we can focus on the last paragraph and then answer question 25. This latest model is the seventh generation of the popular 3 Series and joins the 320i and the 330e in the BMW lineup. The 3 Series was once the home of the BMW's small sedans, but they have 25 grew, or grown. So remember, we they have, and we're talking about essentially past and present, okay? Past and present. So the best option here would be the past participle. They have grown in both size and stature over the years. Small is probably not the description that comes to mind when you first lay eyes on the 318i. It's large and long, but still remains as sorry, but still retains a slickness about it. This concept, slickness talks about um, glamour, right? Shiny, something that shines. Of course, as in BMW, it's always a spec. So, with this, we have come to the end of the review of Martes de Prueba number 5 for ninth grade in 2025. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for clicking on like. Also, the invitation is to subscribe to the channel and also promote so other people in the country or in other schools, including also, why not, in the rest of the world, could benefit from these reviews. Thank you very much, and I see you in a future occasion.